Happy full moon in Cancer. This month is going by kind of fast and kind of slow all at the same time, isn't it? So it's so interesting. I haven't ordered my calendar yet for the year, and I like the Llewellyn's Witches calendar. It's like really on top of all of the astrological movements that are happening, and so I feel like I'm riding blind into the year. I don't know when the full moon is. I just had to like look it up on my phone, and I had no idea what the astrology sign or what mansion it was full in, and I was like, oh, Cancer. And it made so much sense because over the past couple of days I've just been going like really deep into inner child healing. I joined the To Be Magnetic pathway for the year, and one of the initial workshops after like how to manifest, they recommend doing the unblocked inner child because a lot of the subconscious programming that is like blocking us from getting all the things that we want in life can be resolved by healing the inner child. And so I've been doing a lot of that work, and it's so crazy like what's coming up and what's like seems random but what's not random, and how it's not random, and how it'll like change something else in your waking like right now life that doesn't seem related, and it's wild. So finding out that this full moon was in Cancer, I was like, wow. And so when I had clicked on the link that I was trying to figure out what full moon this was, it was like broken down into like horoscope. So I was like, oh, it's Aries. And it was like, this day would be best suited doing inner child work and healing. And like healing emotional traumas from childhood. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Right on target. So oh yeah, I forgot. I figured out finally like where I look to make it look right, but it's still hard to make myself do it because I get distracted by my own reflection because I'm a monster. But I was like, oh, my lipstick looks good. And I just have to tell y'all about this makeup story. I love wearing red lipstick for videos and winged eyeliner because it only has to last for a few minutes. And it's not safe for me to just go out and wear lipstick. I mean, all the masks now make it difficult, but without the masks, I'm the kind of person that like, I'm always like touching my, I touch my face a lot, and you know, I pull at my clothes and I stand on my shoes, and I'm just like always scuffed and smudged. And so it doesn't take long for me to just be like, and then like go around the rest of the day with like a Picasso painting on my face. Like when I have worn winged eyeliner in the past, it's like you're so like on guard that you're going to the bathroom and checking your face in the mirror like once an hour just to make sure that it's still all there and it hasn't melted. And then like my guard will be let down, and then like I'll go to the bathroom later after being all carefree, and suddenly I'm like, oh my god, I look like the Joker from Tim Burton's Batman. And when like Kim Basinger throws the water in his face and he's like this distorted this thing, like that's like what it's like for me to try to wear red lipstick and winged eyeliner out in the wild. So it's nice to be able to wear it like when I'm just in climate controlled circumstances. But anyway, neither here nor there. Now that we're all settled in, it's so interesting that the full moon was in Capricorn to set us out into this year. I'm sorry, the new moon was in Capricorn, and Capricorn is the father, and the full moon is in Cancer, which is the mother. And I feel like this whole year has been set up so that we can like go out and like actually try to live in an up-leveled place, from a place where we're more, you know, our authentic self, where we're more like awakened and, you know, conscious and living like, you know, aware of like really who we are, and like living on purpose with like some intent. And so part of that is that mother-father healing, and having a help, not just the literal mother-father healing with the people that raised you or your caretakers or lack thereof, but with your very idea of the archetype of what is it to be mother, what is it to be father, what is it to have, what is your relationship to father and mother on an archetypal, what is your even idea of it? if you took, you know, your own personal relationships out of it and just like filled it in with avatars, what would you feel? What would you think? So examining those ideas and then going back and re-experiencing those childhood traumas, like asking your subconscious, like what was the first time that I felt the way that something triggers you, right? And you're like, what is this really about? Like, what does this remind me of? What is this pattern that keeps coming up to me? What is common ground here? And what's the earliest time I can remember feeling this way? And what caused it? And going back and then like reliving it in a different way in your mind. And I'm not going to get too much into it because I would highly suggest looking into To Be Magnetic. Listen to a whole lot of episodes of the podcast and it'll start making more sense and you'll understand what they're talking about, because it's like this whole thing, but it's familiar and it's like pieces of stuff that we've all, or you know, if you're here you've probably been looking into these kind of things too, but it's like Lacey Phillips has been able to curate all of these practices in a way that is like extremely highly effective, and it reprograms the neural pathways and your subconscious programming so that those things that drive your motivations to make certain like clutch decisions or like have these reactions or whatever, it's like almost like this hypnotherapy where like you kind of like work it out of your system and you go back and resolve it and not just glaze over it or push it under the rug, but actually like delve into how it can grow you, you know, and how that can heal you and make you even more wiser and compassionate about that thing. So tangent back to the mother healing of the full moon. I think that this is a great time to reconnect with the most general archetype and divine level of mother that you can imagine or fathom or understand, and not necessarily project that onto your own earthly mother, because our earthly mothers are just women who were trying, and they were probably, I mean, if they were of birthing age, they were, you know, younger women. And I mean, even, you know, those of us who work really hard on our spirituality and our psychology, like we're all just like struggling and like still just like kind of like, you know, kind of doing okay. Like, so I'm all right, you know. So imagine being in a time, and I do think that each generation is born into that, they're, you know, the world with like an elevated level of like consciousness, because like humankind evolves over time. So in a way, like, you know, our parents and their parents before them and their parents before them, like there's a good chance they weren't self-aware, that they didn't have anybody to guide them or help them. I mean, like we can get on the internet now and like look on Instagram or YouTube and have like learn from the Dalai Lama. Like, oh yeah, like we take it for granted. We're like, I don't even follow him, you know? And it's like, why not? Like all this wisdom is available now and it wasn't before. And because I think it can be revealed now and understand and not taken and twisted like religion has been twisted, you know, up to now. And so the deeper mystic understanding is coming forth now because it's safer too. I think more and more people are starting to understand it like inherently, like it's just the intuitive truth to them. But it wasn't when our parents were growing up. And so they may not have been those people that were into self-help, you know. It's funny because like kind of some of the self-help hippies are the ones like from the day that like all, you know, our baby boomer parents that roll their eyes at now. It's like sometimes they're the ones that are like, they were a little bit ahead as far as like the woo-woo stuff, you know. They were into it back then and it wasn't as popular or as accepted as it is now. And, you know, for people who are conservative and don't think that way, they look at you like a kook. So, but it just so happens that us kooks are like really into like trying to like understand ourselves and heal our childhood wounds and, you know, become better people. And so that helps us become more aware when we're, you know, the goal is so that we can become more aware and live more consciously and have more healthier conscious relationships with people. I think that this Cancer moon is also addressing all of our domestic issues, our house and home, our closest personal lives, you know, how we keep our house, how we express our sense of home and security. And as we heal our wounds with our parents, I think that we become healthier and we start to get to know ourselves and what we need in the world closest to us, from the people and from the way our homes are set up and look and how we keep them. And, you know, it's like when your home is all a wreck and the energy is stagnant in your life, like this full moon would be a good time to declutter or rearrange furniture. And it's so funny because the other day, my brother brought some of my furniture from home. I had these like big antique cabinets and chests of drawers that I just never brought them over here because it was just not like, they're really big pieces of furniture. And this is like, you know, a townhouse, so it's not like huge rooms. So I never chose to bring them here. And now I'm like have them just brought to me because they needed the space. I'm like so happy, and everything looks so good and it's so luxurious, and makes me feel like so much more secure and homey. And it's like right here arriving at the full moon. It's funny. And so yeah, I think that just taking care of your house and giving it a little love and a little organization and a little decluttering and a little feng shui is going to open up a lot of energy. And I think it also helps me process my subconscious stuff. All of that starts coming out when I'm cleaning. And so the process symbolically is like you're cleaning everything out, you're working through it, you're processing through it, you're unpacking, you know? And I think that when we do physical gestures, the symbolism lends itself to our energetic work, our spiritual intents, you know, our magical manifestations. And that's why in spiritual rituals and religious rituals and you know, in magical rituals, you use symbolic things because the non-physical world speaks the truth to us through symbols in our life. In the outer world, it's reflecting and it's manifesting in a symbolic form to us that tells us a story. And then it's like the actions that we do tell us, like they inverse like a symbolic story to our subconscious. So that's why like a vision board or something can be so effective to help you manifest something, because your subconscious sees that, you know, I lost my train of thought, but usually that I might cut and come back. Oh yeah, that we talk to each other in symbols. Our soul talks to us in symbols. We talk to it in symbols. And so, yeah, it's a very effective way of using, steering your subconscious in the right direction. So cleaning your house will help you clean out your inner house. Another thing that you might want to do is really get in touch with your intuition, do some, let yourself go into a trance and see where your thoughts take you. I would do some meditation. I would, if you like automatic journaling and automatic writing, I would do that. I would, you know, if you like sketching, if you like collaging, like do something that gets your creativity involved with letting yourself channel something through from your subconscious without trying to, like, say if you're going to draw a picture, don't overthink like what you're drawing the picture of. That's why I really like collaging, because you just kind of can instinctually pick out like these elements and pieces that feel right. And then sometimes when you finish, you're like, whoa, there's actually like this like really surreal like story happening here. And it like kind of reveals itself to you over time. So I think that can be really cool and really useful. But I think that this year is going to really heighten our psychic senses, and it's going to expand our creativity and our imagination. And so I think in order to start working with that and like introducing them to each other, like they already know each other, but we need to start connecting them. And so I think that's something that you can do this year, is just to start playing with your creativity more, start playing with your intuition more. This year, one of the major themes during our, so I did tarot forecasts for each month of 2022, and I've been posting them on my YouTube channel, Light Love Magic. And I also did an overall prediction of the year, and I did like a January new moon reading in Capricorn. And so at some point and through all of it, we've seen that the sacral chakra and water element are a huge healing source and center this year. So we're going to be healing all of the stuff in our sacral chakra, which is like our sexual organs, the womb, you know, the creativity, the watery realms associated with the moon. So it's like the water and, you know, this whole sacral chakra is associated with psychic gifts, intuition, the astral realm, the moon. It's associated with creativity, the dream state, inner vision, prophecy, astrology. It's associated with fertility, birthing life, creating, and our sexuality. And it's also where we hold our shame. And the shame that we carry is usually embedded into us in childhood, from sometimes seemingly like harmless things that happen, that just like things can happen to you when you're a child that you're just not emotionally capable of processing. And that's all trauma is. I mean, trauma is on a spectrum, but like something mild can traumatize you as a child, depending on like how sensitive you are, and have like, you know, this like lingering effect that you're just not even aware of. And it's like, as soon as you're like, oh, that must be where that came from. Oh, aha. And it just is so liberating, because you're like, oh, well, I can just throw that away. Or, oh, well, now that I'm aware of it, wow, that's crazy that, you know, that did that. And that makes so much sense. But then you look back and you see like, oh, I've been repeating this pattern, this storyline over and over, just because it was imprinted in my programming from a very early impressionable time. I had this emotionally overwhelming situation happen, and I saw it play out, and then it became like this operating system within my consciousness, and my life started to like kind of play out what I thought it would. We are creators, like what we think manifests, and sometimes what we're thinking subconsciously that we're not even aware of is most of the time manifesting in our life. So that's why it's so important to go back in the subconscious and clean up the hidden things that are affecting us the most. And that's also to do with Cancer, is that subconscious realm, that watery realm in the, you know, in that sacral area. And so one of the themes was that working with water as an element would be really big and very helpful this year. And so I'm like salt baths I'm recommending, and I'm taking them a lot, and like putting in, you know, other you know, oils that have magical uses, all the, you know, flowers and herbs and spices and whatnot. And so yeah, just to really cleanse a lot of that stuff and ground all of the reprogramming and just pull it out and ground in and harness the energy without it becoming so much energy that it's not grounded and it's chaotic and it's explosive. And I think that that's probably one reason why I'm not super emotional today. Like, I've been doing all of this inner child work, and I would expect to be very emotional. I'm even like about to start my period any minute, and I'm usually like a wreck, but I feel all right. I feel like I've lost, somebody was like, oh, you should be their tagline. I was like, I've lost like 30 pounds of emotional baggage in like 14 days. But yeah, so I feel very grounded emotionally right now, even though I'm looking at some very emotional topics and themes and working through them. I don't know, there's this support of that water element this year as you're healing that shame and anything, you know, related in that suppressed subconscious. You know, try salt baths. Also drink a lot of water. If you're like healing things in your light body or your energy body, and you're getting upgrades in that realm, like you're gonna need a lot of fluids, especially water, just to renew your cells. And so the water is, again, something that we need to ingest for like healing this year, and soak in and just wield in every sense. And look up water, learn more about water, like as the magical significance, as an elemental force. Just work with those energies this year. It's all about the dream state and the creative realms and everything that we have just been like listing off. Water has to do with. It's feminine, it's mutable. It can exist in all states of matter. Water is actually very fascinating, and science does not know a lot about water. And Dr. Emoto, the physicist that a lot of people have heard of, was like doing all these studies about it. And there's a couple of documentaries online, but I just watched the one. It's called Dr. Emoto Water Experiment full documentary. It's so interesting. Water is a living thing that has a memory, and it's like a energy information medium. It remembers everything it's ever experienced, and it's very impressionable. So work with water this year. Work with water today with Cancer. Go take a bath, drink a lot of water, have a hot tea. There's all these things I want to talk about. A relationship could have a fresh start. I was thinking also because, well, I'll get to that in a minute, because I did pull a full moon card, or a moonology card for us tonight, and a tarot card to go with it. But so think about your personal relationships. What patterns are you breaking in those? How are you healing? Because I have a feeling that we're not starting the work right now in the full moon. It's coming to fruition. We're starting to see that these things are actually taking root, and they're starting to have big changes, and we're starting to get really excited. So if you're super emotional, that's okay. Just let it run through. Let it just be released. And the more you do that, and the more you continue to ground yourself, the less it'll affect you, really. Or at least, cyclically, like once you're up leveled and like you've worked this material out, for this time around, like usually you're not so triggered by it anymore until maybe it needs to come up again later when you're up leveling all over again. So, so where are we? We've talked about relationships. There may be a renewal in a relationship, or there may be like a relationships have been in transformational states, like family dynamics, friends, romantic relationships. A lot of relationships have been transmuting and transforming, and I feel like this is the end of an energy cycle with these relationships, and the new beginning can begin. I think that is one. The archetypally that we began the month with the new moon in Capricorn that represents the father, and then like we have the full moon representing the mother, and then the twos of the year and the sixth card. I just feel like this year is all about balancing our partnerships and our relationships, and so to have the mother and the father resolved in the first month of the year, or at least to a level resolved, allowing you to go forth and have their blessing almost on you, to try to work through the rest of your relationships. When you're adjusted in here and in here and in the subconscious about witnessing your parents having, or your caretakers, however you saw relationships modeled, whether it was because of the absence of or they were there, no matter how nice of a house you grew up in or how bad, we've all been given not quite the right example, because like we're all people, no one's perfect, so no one's been given the perfect example of relationships. So we all have to like work it out and try to solve those problems, but we can't really fully solve them until we have come to a peace inside with our relationship with our parents, to accept them as just flawed adults, and to see that all their stuff wasn't anything personal on us. They were just trying to deal with all their shit they've got going on, and they still are. And they may not even be as aware of it as you are. So you might be their emotional leader at this point. So think of it that way. So the more we heal our perception of our relationship with our parents, or just make peace with it, we don't have to condone anything that we do. We can just make peace with it. And so we can go forward and have much more fruitful relationships. And as we heal the inner child, one of the things that had come up, someone mentioned in one of the To Be Magnetic podcasts, Esther Perel books, Mating in Captivity, which my BFF Tracy has just given me for Christmas. This is what we give each other for Christmas, Mating in Captivity. We were talking about how it's like the inner child stuff that causes sex drive issues in relationships later, as the male and female, or it doesn't really matter. I guess it could be like same sex, any gender or non-gender, whatever. Two people coming together, the closer that they get intimately and domestically, it's like the more they if they start to feel like a familiar dynamic that they had with their parent, they'll become not sexually attracted to you. I'm chewing a Ricola cough drop because coughing is canceled permanently. Because when I had COVID, now I have like that little cough still. Oh yeah, so as soon as the partner starts demonstrating a similar dynamic that you had with your caretaker, it's like the attraction is like, it's like put into like it fizzles out. Not to say that it can be saved, but it like goes into this like dormant state. It's like, no, because you're subconsciously, you're like, this feels like me and my mom, or this feels like me and my dad all over again. And I don't want to be with my dad. So you're gross now. It's that kind of weird like thing where you're not aware of it, but it's like, it's kind of what's running the show, and you're not aware of those motivations within you. And I swear that as I've been doing this inner child stuff, things like that, where you wouldn't have even connected it before, have suddenly been like coming up, like almost like sneaking up on me and being like, hey, and I'm like, oh my gosh, all the inner child stuff. That's so crazy. So definitely do examine how you've been healing your parent issues. Continue to heal the inner child until, you die. But don't keep picking, like, like we're a work in progress all the time. So don't get too rigorous and zealous about it. Don't tear yourself apart. But yeah, so, and really get in touch with your psychic gifts. So I feel like, I'm just going to go ahead and bring these cards in. So it's so funny when I just picked up the Moonology deck, and I was like, all right, I'm going to like shuffle the cards for the full moon in Cancer. And I swear this deck is so, like, half the time, over half of the time, it gives you the actual card of the moon that it's in. It's so funny. But I actually had a card jump out right away, and I saw the crab, and I was like, oh my God, is it full moon in Cancer? But it was new moon in Cancer. For the full moon in Cancer, which I think it's interesting. It says you and your loved ones are safe. And so just on a surface level, I just think it's like, hey, you and your household, everything's really like, it's in a healing place. Like everything's good. Everybody's taken care of, no matter what's going on right now, no matter how emotional you are, or how distant, like your relationships are healing and you're in a good place and things are getting better. I also feel like, because we're getting the new moon card, which is the beginnings on the full moon, I think that means that this is the end of this is the end of a major pattern that has been holding us back in our relationships for our whole life. And if we can resolve that parent stuff, and we're not blaming the parents, like it's not their fault. You can do something so innocent and like not even think about it and accidentally traumatize a child. Or you could be a crackhead and totally traumatize your child. And like I know plenty of kids who have had crackhead parents, and they are very well adjusted. So it's like you just have to accept that like these aren't perfect people, and if you can take them off the pedestal and separate that archetypal all-powerful mother and father, that's that divine mother and father, not your earthly mother and father. Though the divine mother and father, they can hold true and be that all-powerful, all-knowing, all-comforting, figure, but like you're like no human parent ever could. So just, I don't know, let it all go and let it heal and just start over, start fresh. Whatever you have with people, throw away your relationship labels, like the context of how you know each other, and start fresh. Start over, start fresh, no baggage. The past is the past. How we know each other so far has probably been based on ego battles and assumptions and patterns and wounds that are starting to heal. So it's like, it's worth getting to know people all over again, because you're different. So the way that you will experience them will be different. So I would say pay attention to your emotions. Don't do anything grand yet, because the Venus is still in retrograde and Mercury just went retrograde. So don't make any bold moves, but be paying attention to where you're being guided, or where you find yourself being pulled to. Our other card that went with the new moon in Cancer was the Four of Swords, which is all about like rest, meditate, listen, let the spiritual work you've been doing or the energetic work you've been doing settle. You know, don't run out and feel like you have to run out and make it happen. Just relax into it and let it all settle and solidify. I think we're done. It's 30 minutes. I don't feel anything coming. This has been a full moon in Cancer. It has felt every bit as watery and dreamy as it probably is being to watch it. Because I'm like, I'm in such like a state. Like, I feel like I'm in a trance. I'm so unconnected. So yeah, it's always interesting to go back and watch the videos, because I feel like when I go back and watch them again, like my pauses aren't as long as I think they are. I'm not as like discombobulated and like random as I seem. I don't know. I kind of feel like I will be today, but I'm still gonna post it. So I'm laughing at myself, and you all can have full permission to laugh at me too. Feeling like a space cadet. Just feeling like a space cadet today. All right. Whack-a-doodle.